This is the Note Closer Show, where you get the latest developments in distressed note investing and learn the secrets of how you can control millions of dollars worth of property for pennies on the dollar. Get educated and entertained by someone who has closed thousands of deals and lives to support you in achieving the same. Now, here's your host, CEO of We Close Notes, Scott Carson.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome to this episode of the Note Closer Show. As always, Scott Carson, excited to be here with you today. It's a little bit of difference background here. We're in the process of preparing for our large online podcasting summit. And I'm really excited for today's guest who is leveraging his podcast in his market, his real estate podcast in his real estate business, do some other big things. And our special guest is just an absolutely rock star doing some amazing things. And he likes to share a little bit how he had too much month left at the end of his paycheck.
I had lots of month.
A lot of month left compared to our paycheck out there. And so I love his story. I love what he's doing. And I think it'll add a lot of value to you guys that are listening out there that are looking to really take your networking and connections, your local market to a whole different level. And the guy I'm talking about is Gary Hibbert. He's a full-time real estate investor, licensed and award-winning real estate agent, author, and educator. In 2008, he made the decision that would be life-changing by purchasing his first investment property. Through hard work and dedication, Gary left the corporate world to become a full-time entrepreneur in 2014. Today, not only does he have a remarkable real estate investing portfolio and successful businesses, Gary continually inspires the same change that has transformed his life into many others around him. And so we are honored to have the man, the myth, the legend, for the health and wealth and everything between podcasts, Mr. Gary Hibbert joining us today. How's it going, Gary?
Man, it's going amazing. Thank you for that fantastic introduction. And I'm really happy, really stoked to be here with you. And you got some incredible stuff that's been happening, and I've been keeping an eye on what you're doing. So, it's amazing. So kudos to you.
Well, hey, man, thank you very much. Appreciate it. I'm glad that you're a part of it as well, too. And our relationship started just a few months ago from me reaching out to other podcasters, especially in the real estate industry, on LinkedIn, and we scheduled a phone call and just to get to know each other. And I was just blown away. So why don't you share a little bit with our listeners out there, a little bit more of your background, and we'll dive into that first. How's that sound?
Yeah, sure. So you know what, why don't I maybe kind of get into my story and why I ended up having to at least go down the path of real estate investing, what happened. And so it really kind of starts around 2008. And if you remember back then, that was when the U.S. market had, their big crash, the financial crisis that they had there. And so
everything bombed.
Yeah, exactly. And so here was the thing in Canada, we were bracing ourselves to that because we thought it was coming up to Canada. And so we got really nervous. And what happened was, obviously now you can go back in time and take a look, but our real estate market kind of did more of a sideways thing up here in Canada. But what did have an impact and what did take a hit was a lot of people lost their jobs. Mm-hmm. And so at the time I was working for a bank, TD Bank, and I really needed this job. Me and my wife, we had just purchased a home. Like I talked about earlier, like you mentioned earlier, paycheck to paycheck. We had 2 young kids, so I needed this job. And so I go into work now on a Monday morning, typical Monday morning, minding my own business, sit down at my cubicle, and I see a friend get called into our manager's office. And he comes out, and the look on his face was jaw dropping. And I was like, oh my God, you can see it. He lost his job. And so now there was this panic that kind of set in the room. And so I'm in there and I'm banging the keyboards harder, thinking that, hey, if they see me working real hard, they're not going to fire me, right?
Right.
And so anyways, the day's done. The manager comes out of the office and he goes, okay, whoever's still left here, you guys are safe. You don't have to worry about losing your job. And so this changed my life. I'm driving home now. And I said, never again do I ever want to feel like somebody is in control of my financial freedom or future. And the issue was that I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to get out of this rat race. And so I tried a number of different things. I got into stock market, took a course on that, got into commodity trading, buying wheat, soybeans, oil. I got into currency trading, selling the US dollar and waking up at 4 a.m. and selling the yen. And I'm trying all these different things, and I'm putting myself into more debt. And so I go into my bank now, and this is the third time I've gone into my bank now to do this, where I take all my debt and consolidate it and put it into my mortgage. And she goes, listen, Gary, you obviously don't know how to manage your credit cards. You don't know how to manage your lines of credit. So how about we do you a favor, just get rid of them for you? And I'm like, please do. I want nothing to do with it ever again, because I just put myself into too much debt. Yeah. But here was the one thing that I realized, was that my house every single time was saving me. And so this is when everything completely changed. So she leaves the office and she goes to print the mortgage documents for me to sign. And I'm sitting in there by myself, and I'm looking up at the wall, and I see this index chart. And I don't know if you've ever seen the index chart, but the index chart shows you what stock markets have done for the last 50 years, what interest rates have done. And then I took a look at what inflation was doing and what it was doing for the last 50 years. And it ranged anywhere between 2 to 3%, some years as high as 15, 20%. And so even at the lowest mark, I took a look at my raise the previous year, and I'm like, well, hold on a second, I got a raise of $1,000. Did the math, and I'm like, I got a raise of 1.6%. I get it. It is mathematically impossible to outpace inflation. And that was when I knew that I had to get into real estate investing. And that's what got me into it.
Wow. Wow. I know, being an ex-banker, I can attest to those kind of feelings, because that's what very similar thing happened to me walking in. But instead of making it through the cut, we were all sent to the boardroom and told, what was happening. And, people were crying and screaming. You know what I mean?
I heard a couple of those.
but it really shakes you up.
Yeah.
And realizing that an employee, or a lot of people that have that 40-year lie, as we like to say, they work 40 years, 40 hours a week to retire on 40% here in the States, stuff like in other places, that's really, you're leaving it up your destiny and future success really to somebody else out there that's just looking at numbers and profit margins for companies. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
It's a crazy thing,
Yeah. Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was going to simply say that led to you just sitting there at the bank or realizing you had to do something. Let's talk about that next step. You bought your first investment property. How far after that?
Yeah, so I bought it that same year.
Nice.
I bought it that same year. I had no choice but to figure out how to pick up my first investment property. And so I didn't have the money. So what I ended up having to do, and I didn't have any formal real estate training either at that time, but I had the sense to say, well, look, if I don't have the money, maybe I need to go to somebody else that may have the money, and then just, show them this deal. And that's essentially how I got into it, my very first one.
Nice. Using other people's money to help fund the transaction for you, which is good, because doing it the first time, a lot of investors, that's the biggest thing that scares them, is talking about other people's money. Like, oh, I need to have the money first. I need to, one of the things, I need to prove the concept works before I go talk to anybody. You're smiling because you've heard that a few times, huh?
Right. Yeah. And you don't, right? Because look, what I was doing was, I wasn't so much selling the product. I wasn't so much selling the house. I was selling the dream. And I was telling them the story that I'd actually gone through, like real life story. Like, I almost lost my job. The only thing that's bailed me out over the last, 10, 12 years was my home. What if we bought one other property and we at least shared that together? And so now we have an ATM that we can dip into every few years, right? And so once he understood that concept, it made sense to him as well too.
Nice stuff. Good. That's really good. Awesome stuff. So let's fast forward a little bit. How did you go from focusing on your life, your entity, your family stuff, to getting the idea of starting to help others around you?
Yeah. So in regards to now being able to help other people around me, what I had to do was I had to change my mindset first. I had to educate myself first. It's kind of like, when people go onto a plane, right? What do they say? They say to put, your oxygen mask on first before you help those around you. Yep. And so how can I help other people if I am not where they need me to be? And so now I started finding mentors. I started finding people that were where I wanted to be, because before I got into real estate investing, I'll kind of skip back just a little bit. Back in 2001, I asked a friend who had an investment property. I said, look, I want to get into real estate investing. I know you have an investment property. Should I do it? And he goes, don't. I go, why? He goes, because the tenants, they will destroy your home. They're a mess. It takes you like a year, maybe a year and a half to get them out. And so then I went home and talked to my wife about it. And then I went back into work the next day, and I'm like, thank you so much for talking me out of it. I can't believe that I almost went down this path of real estate investing. So now, but listen, here's the important part of the story, is that it wasn't his fault. I'm asking somebody how to get out of a bucket that's never been outside the bucket. Mm-hmm. And so then now I had to go and talk to people that were outside the bucket, or people that were where I wanted to be, and then ask them, how do you do it? And so when I started hearing their stories and how they were doing it, it was something that was so foreign to me. I never heard anything on, well, you have to change your mindset. Well, I have to change my mindset. Yeah, you got to change your philosophy. You got to change the people that you hang out with. You have to, put yourself in surroundings of people that you are where you want to be. And so by doing that, by educating myself, understanding that you don't have to have the money, you just have to have the why. And once you tie a why to what it is that you want, then anything is possible. And I mean, I'm not sure about this recording here. Some people will see it, and maybe some of it's audio, but if you look in the back, that's my whiteboard there. My whiteboard has everything. Like, I've been doing this since 2010. Everything that I want in my life has been designed. I designed it the way that I wanted it to go. And so from there, once I understood that I can now live the life that I want, that is when I started now saying, hey, look, let me start to help other people. And once I was able to get into that position, I was also showing them not only the things that were happening that were great in my life, but I was also showing them the journey and the failures and the problems and the issues and everything that was happening. So now they could see the true story, and then they can jump in at the time that they felt that it was right for them to jump in.
So, oh man, that's such a great story. We often have people that we look forward to, that we want to, we admire, or friends, families, colleagues, that we have an idea of something we want to do. We go to them looking to get advice, and they come across with opposite information than we should be thinking of, because they, exactly like you said, they've never crawled out of that bucket that they're in. They're the wrong person to be asking. Right. You wouldn't go to a pest guy and ask him how to do brain surgery.
Right. Yeah.
And that's kind of the same philosophy. If somebody's only done it once and had a bad experience, I mean, they can only talk to their experience. And so that's smart. Always, as I always say, go talk to people that are where you want to be, or doing what you want to do, and talk to them and take their counsel instead of asking advice from everybody else around you. So it's good stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So talk about let's talk a little about your portfolio. So how'd you become award winning? You decided to get your real estate license as well along the way. How'd that kind of transition work?
Yeah. So what ended up happening now after 2008, 2010 rolls around, and then we start a real estate investment company, education company called Smart Home Choice. And that was when now I was like, okay, cool. So I'm going to start educating myself. I'm also going to start educating other people on real estate investing. And one of the earlier concepts that we came up with was rent to own. And so it was because I was new to real estate investing, and I'd heard of some of the horror stories. I was like, okay, look, if I'm moving a family into an investment property where they have a vested interest in it, they're going to own that home in a few years, and I'm still working at my full-time job. At least it's something that I don't have to completely fully manage all the time. And so by doing that, that was how I was able to do a lot of the joint ventures as well, to grow my portfolio. And again, OPM, right, using other people's money and showing them that, I could help them create better returns that they were getting in their GICs or their mutual funds. And I think down in the States there, what's it called? The 401ks.
401ks, IRAs, retirement accounts, all that good stuff. Yeah.
Right. And so that was where it all really kind of started, was with Smart Home Choice, building that business, bringing in guest speakers, bringing in accountants, lawyers, people that had 100 doors, just everything. So we could all learn together. And so we started creating this this really nice community of investors that were really trying to help each other. And then it was just an incredible thing where you realize that when you're in this space, you're like, everybody just wants to help each other. And then when you go back to that corporate world, like you'd ask somebody, hey, listen, how do I do this? And they're like, they give you a little bit, but not everything, because they don't want you to leapfrog over them. And it's just that corporate world mentality, you know, whether it's right or wrong, it's different places. And, you know, it's just a different mindset. That's really what it is.
Yeah. So so when did you start that? When did you start that? The Smart Home Choice, where you're bringing the
2010. 2010 is when we started Smart Home Choice.
Okay.
So
what was, you said you were starting with lease options or owner, rental options, you said basically?
Well, yeah. So really what I started off with was single family homes. Then I tried a 2-unit, which is like a BRRRR strategy. And I didn't even know what a BRRRR strategy was. It's like 2009. No clue what a BRRRR strategy was. But
that acronym didn't even exist at that point, right?
Yeah, it didn't. And but then I ended up selling it about maybe 8 or 9 months later, because I didn't understand what I was doing. It's not that it's a wrong or bad strategy. I wasn't educated yet. And so that's when we went into the lease option. And then we kind of taught most of our investors, you know, that were new investors, like, hey, this is a great way to get into it, where it's turnkey type properties and you're getting good tenants moving to your home. And then, you know, I had another partner in the business, and he had his real estate license. And I saw, you know, how good he was doing, because I was giving him all these clients and investors. I was like, okay, maybe I need to now get my real estate license to help him out as well too, because he was just getting swamped.
Well, we all know you want to make a little bit more money. Come on now.
That too. And I saw it as an exit strategy to get out of my job. And so then in 2013, I wrote down on my whiteboard to leave my job. And I actually put a month beside it, which was April. And in April in 2014, I left my job. And I'll tell you something as well too. Like when you're doing those whiteboards and you're writing down what you want, they've got to be a SMART goal, which is specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, time. And that is how we came up with the name Smart Home Choice. That was how we came up with it, because it was all about goal setting.
And that's a smart thing to do with everything there, which is good. So let's talk about the growth a little bit of your network there, your community, or your real estate club, I guess what most people call it. But I love the fact that you talk about your community. It's really become its own kind of organism. People pulling for each other, working together, sharing resources, sharing knowledge, as you said. Let's talk. Yeah. How did that grow for you? I mean, what were kind of the steps? Where, how'd you start off with? How many people, and kind of how did that progress to where it's at today?
Yeah, that's a good question. So here's how it started. So prior to us opening the doors at Smart Home Choice, what I did was I started reaching out to all my friends and all my family on Facebook, in my phone, and said, hey, look, I'm doing a seminar at my house in my living room. I want you to come by and check it out. And so every month.
Hang on a second. Did they think it was some multi-level thing? Were you're gonna sell them some health bars or some discounts?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Some of them did. Absolutely. Some of them did. But I mean, like, if they asked me questions, I was upfront with them. I wouldn't say just show up and I'll tell you all about it, because that's usually what the MLMs do.
Be a double diamond eagle distributor.
Yeah, exactly. And so every single month we were doing these seminars in our living room. We would have anywhere from 5 to 15 people that would show up, and we would, and that's how we got better at it. I mean, the first few, I was sweating and I was making a mess of it. But then I got better at it. And then once we felt comfortable that, okay, cool, all of what we had, talked about and believed in, iron it out, answer all those questions, like, okay, cool, now let's launch this thing. And then that was when we now went out to social media and really started pushing it out, saying, hey, look, we're having a class on real estate investing 101, or hey, look, we have this mastermind event that we have where these experts are coming in to educate you. And that's how we started creating the community. And then we started a membership. And when we started the what's the hardest thing is when you start a membership is, so you teach a class and you say, okay, here's what the membership cost is. Do you want to join? And like, okay, cool, Gary, how many members do you have? Like, you're going to be the first one. But from there it grew, and today, we've got close to 80 members now, which is thank you, which is really exciting. And again, even outside of the members, we still have other investors that are coming into the room and that are learning from us, who are investors, they're realtors, they're from all walks of life, right? And so it's all about just sharing that information.
I love it, man. I mean, it's I'm just sitting here beaming in pride for you, because I know it takes time. It takes time building that, and sometimes when you're starting off, you're the one that sees the dream. Other people have a hard time of seeing that image and seeing what's ahead out there. And you've got a lot of times, I'm sure you've probably banged your head against the wall. A lot of times we believe in our students more than they believe in themselves at first. They don't see the whole truth of what can happen for them. And we're like, come on, you can do this, And so I love the fact that you've talked about mindset, talked about kind of getting them rocking and rolling. And then you're really merging the two together to help them not only just money-wise, but the mind-wise aspect of things.
Yeah, and the mindset is such an important piece to it. It really is. And look, a lot of people take a look now and say, well, you were an overnight success, but they don't see, when I was studying Smart Home Choice and, working at TD Bank, putting in those 8-9 hours. Then I was also on call because I worked in the IT department. So then they could call me at any time after hours in the middle of the night. And so I'd come home and then I would work on Smart Home Choice until 1-2 o'clock in the morning. And then I would get up at 5:30 and then I would go to work again. And I did this for like 4.5 years. I was doing blogs. I was, doing videos. I was, hosting these events. I was just going out and buying I was doing everything that I possibly could. And I'll tell you this as well too. And as you're developing your mindset, and as I was going back into work as well too, and when people were listening to what I was doing, because I was sharing it, and they're like, you got 6 homes now, you got 8 homes now, like, Gary, the market's going to crash. What are you going to do when the market crashes? You're going to lose everything. You're jeopardizing your family. And so that started to actually shake the ground that I was on. And it was because I didn't fully understand, like I was learning it, but I didn't understand it yet. I was getting there. And so once I got it and understood it and understood that it wasn't about, buying a property and not understanding where the market is going, because so when we buy properties, we're buying them for cash flow. I'm not concerned about depreciation. I'll take it, but that's not why I'm buying it. I'm buying it for the cash flow, because the appreciation is the icing on the cake. The cash flow is the cake itself that you can eat and put food on or money on the table for your family. And so when you understand those kind of concepts, now I can say, well, no, I can have those proper conversations with them and say, this is why I'm doing it. And I'm standing on firm ground now.
Yeah. Cash flow is king. You don't want to be property rich and cash poor.
Exactly. Because when the market does shift or it does change, that can put you in a very tight position. We had a bit of a correction here in 2017. And I'll share a quick story just with some of your listeners, is that I bought, and I teach real estate investing. Okay. I educate people on how to do this. And I bought at the peak. Okay. However, even though I bought at the peak, I still bought at a great price. So it was undervalued. And then I was able to take that property that was a single family, convert it into a 2-unit, and the property cash flow was like $900 a month. So even though the market's come down, it's still cash flowing. So I can take that cash flow. I can go on a vacation with it. I can put food on the table with it. I can use it for whatever it is that I decided to use that money for. So it's about buying your property smart, right? Not timing the market, time in the market.
And that's a big thing. And a lot of people are sitting on the sidelines waiting to do something. I'm like, listen, there's deals everywhere if you just know how to buy right.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And that's the thing, is in an up market, you want to make sure that you're not buying for appreciation. You've got to have, as I like to say, probably 2 or 3 strategies to make money on an asset versus just the one. And I think that's where you see the most amount of mistakes taking place. Everybody falls in love with the TV dramas of Flip This House and HGTV, that I'm going to buy this shack and put $2 into it and turn it into $1 million asset and make $600,000 on the deal. We all know that doesn't exist. You've got to put work into it. You've got to understand the market. You got to understand what repairs to do, what repairs not to do. and understand what's your main exit strategy and then what's your backup plan, you know?
Exactly.
So they don't get bit on the ass by the market changing and leaving you in a bad predicament, which a lot of people, they get so excited to do. They dive and buy an asset with no education, and they bought a dream that had no background to it, right?
Yeah, exactly. So you got to understand your exit strategies, right? And one of the things now too that we do and what we educate a lot of our investors with is that, look, I still love rental, and I think rental is a great way to invest in real estate. But you have to keep in mind is that every 3 years you're going to have to keep replenishing these properties. So for me now, and you know, well, earlier on in my investing career, I then switched it over to buying these properties and holding them, because see, real estate investing and wealth creation is a long-term game. It's not a get rich quick, but it's a get rich for sure. And so now when I'm holding these properties, you have to think of real estate like almost like a hockey stick, where it kind of goes up and up, and then all of a sudden now it kind of shoots and takes off. And so if you sell them too early, you can miss that edge of that hockey stick. And so even though I'm, you know, educating my investors, and I'm not telling them there's a right or wrong strategy, just understand the investing strategy that you're getting into so that it suits your lifestyle. That's the most important piece, right?
Yeah. Now, with you talking with other investors and teaching them, I mean, many of them probably are still working in a regular 9 to 5, but have the dream to leave. What are some advice that you would give to our listeners who are in that same situation, who want to leave their job and are getting started in real estate investing? What things should they put in place, or what numbers or what other things should they focus on to give them the best chance for success?
For them to actually leave their full-time jobs?
Yeah.
Yeah, listen, there's no easy path to success. There really isn't. So you've got to put the time in, you got to put the work in, you've got to, you know, you get home from work, turn TV off. That's what I did. I just turned the TV off, and then I started listening to the podcast, or I started reading books, or I started going to events, and I started hanging out with the right people. And I stopped saying that, you know, I can't do this. And I started saying, okay, how can I do this? I wasn't asking for less problems. I was asking for more skills. And so you got to put yourself in that type of a mindset. And that's the only way you're going to be able to leave your full-time job. And you can't leave your full-time job until your part-time job becomes your full-time job. Mm-hmm. And so you got to put the hours in. You know, a lot of people make that mistake where they've got this great idea and then they just quit their full-time job and they think that they're going to make it. And it's not like that. Yeah, maybe there might be 1 in a million that can do it like that have that natural ability. You know, but most people aren't. It's not like that. You've got to put the time in. You've got to, you know, master your craft. And so that's what I was doing when I was at TD. I was mastering my craft, mastering my art. You know, I remember going to bed with podcasts in my ear and falling asleep. Okay. And I'd wake up and it'd be at some other podcast playing. Who knows? It was probably a program in my mind, you know, but that was how dedicated I was. You know, and I remember too, going into work, and I would stop listening to music in the car, and I would actually start listening to podcasts. And I remember one time I was going for lunch, and I turned the car on, and my friends were all in there, and it was Jim Rohn, and they're like, "You listen to this?" And I was like, no, I'm not listening to this. This is my wife's. My wife listens to this stuff. It's like, oh, I thought you believed this stuff. I'm like, no. And but so going back now, it was because I wasn't where I needed to be yet. I was still, you know, going into this shift. And so I'm saying that for people that are listening now, because, you know, you have to shift. You have to change that mindset. And some people are going to try to pull you down. That is normal because they think that they're protecting you from the unknown. So it's very important to start hanging out with people that have the right mindset, because they're the ones that are going to be able to bring you up. They're the ones who are going to say, no, you're on the right path. Believe in me, believe in us over here, because this is the lifestyle that you do want to live. And so for anybody that's listening that are looking to get out of their 9 to 5 job that no longer like it, you got to put the time in. There's no easy way around it. I've tried all the easy routes. I haven't found one yet. It's all hard work.
It's so truth, man. You've got to build that runway. You can't go in and just leave unless you win the lottery, and then most lottery winners are going to lose that anyway. You got to build that time frame. You know, I'm sure you're a big fan of Gary Vaynerchuk. He says the side hustle, the 7 p.m. to 2 a.m. kind of things, because you based on the hours you're talking about. You know, I had to get to the point where I turned Gary Vee off because I was spending too much time listening to Gary Vee talking right along instead of focusing on my own stuff. You know, and I spoke with him on stage about a year and a half ago, and I told him that. Nice. He started laughing. He goes, "That's a good advice. Sometimes you need to turn me off and turn yourself on." You know, and you know, and that's the thing is when you explain your story, getting in the car and the podcast being on, and your friends in the car, and like, "Oh, what are you doing? You think you're better than us?" Kind of mentality. I think we've all experienced that, whether it's friends or family members or our significant other ones. Sometimes is the most difficult critic that we've got to overcome.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sure your spouse was supportive, or was she not supportive initially? Was like, what the hell are you doing? Especially when it came time to leave the job.
In the beginning, it was tough because, you know, it was, for her, it was like, go out, conquer the world, and be home by 5. Okay. It's just tough, you know, and then, you know, to be able to only do that. No, it was tough in the beginning, but then once she saw that I was dedicated, and I joined this real estate investment group in the beginning, and it was like $30 a month, and then they had a higher level one, was like $160, $170 a month, and I said, let me just join it for a year. Let me at least just spend this, whatever it was, $1,600 or $1,700, and let me see if it works. Just please, just let me at least do that. And so I dedicated myself to that. And once she saw that, once she knew that I was pulling up my socks, and I wasn't going to the clubs anymore, and I was really focused on trying to change our lives, she then said, okay, you're real. You're trying to really change the road that we're going down. And then that was when she jumped in with me, and that was when we started Smart Home Choice. And,
nice.
And we haven't looked back since. And since then, you know, we have the Real Estate Investment Club. We've recently started another company called Deep Pockets, which is like, we do private lending, which is for investors that, you know that there's something important about real estate investing, but maybe a little bit nervous in the beginning to get that property. So here's another way of still at least investing in real estate, but a little more passive. You know, you're not getting the appreciation, not getting that mortgage paid down, but you're still getting the cash flow. And then the other thing that I'm proud of as well too is last year I bought into a real estate brokerage. So I'm a co-owner of a brokerage where we got 70 agents there. And so what I love to do there is to go in, and now not only training families and investors on how to invest in real estate, I am now training and educating the realtors that are in that brokerage on the importance of real estate investment, so that now they can turn around and help their clients that bought their dream home 3, 4, 5 years ago, to help them use the equity or that dead money that's sitting in there to now buy an investment property. Like I always say, it's not everybody needs to be, have 10, 50, and 100 doors. I always say, just buy one. Just one investment property can change your whole entire life.
It can. Yeah. I mean, if you look at the tax benefits and all the income, and then the entrepreneurship, and then what you learn from that first deal is worth so much more than book learning and education. I mean, get me wrong, everything starts with education, but the pulling the trigger and going out and buying your first property, your first deal, oh my gosh, it's the oh shit factor kicks in. I've got to actually do this and stick with it. But it's also, you learn so much from trials and errors and those mistakes you'll make. And the beautiful thing is you've provided that safe environment, so there's less mistakes because they can bounce ideas off of you and your other members. Hey, don't do this, do this. Or, hey, don't use this weird guy that we don't know out of the blue. Use these vendors to help make sure everything goes well for you.
Exactly. And that's what we've created, is this one-stop shop. Right? Everything that you need is all here. The accountants, the lawyers, the contractors, the property management company, everything that you need. We've gone out and we've built it for you. And look, and I tell people that when you're investing in real estate, you will make some mistakes, but at least there's a safety net around you when you're with, us or another investment group that you trust, right? So you want those safety nets. So you want somebody else, hey, look, what did you do when this happened? To be able to at least bounce ideas off of and share information. That's really what it's all about, is, helping each other. Because I think when you really kind of strip everything away, what's the purpose of life? I think it's to help as many people as you can. Service to many leads to greatness.
Yeah. But you did something initially first, I think is very important. You filled your cup first, and you've gone in and fed the world with your overflow. right? I
Yes.
think so many people try to get help everybody else versus focusing on their own, own situation, their own cup. And that's a beautiful thing is that, hey, we've done it. We've got our glass, hit our goals. Now let's go help others do the same thing. And you've really got a great servant leadership model that's really paying off in gangbusters for you and your community. It's awesome, man.
Listen, I appreciate it. I really do. And I enjoy doing this. It's always, for me, it's always a fight against time now. And that's when you know that you're living your dream and your passion. Where, before at my job, I was like, okay, what time can I go home? And now it is, oh my gosh, I've got 2 hours left to get all this done. And so it's hate going to bed, love waking up. And that's how every day should be. So there's no Mondays or Saturdays. Just here's another day. Let's enjoy it to the fullest.
Yeah, that's the truth. Is it doesn't become, we don't live for the weekends anymore. Every day is an opportunity, and it's a different mindset than, oh, I got to get up and go to work today. I don't want to go to work today. I want to stay home and play. Now it's when you're doing something you love, you never work a day in your life, and that's awesome. Now I have a question for you. Now, you and your wife are doing some big things. What's probably the biggest thing that you guys have set as a goal for in the future for y'all?
The biggest goal, one of the things that we want to do is, back in our early 30s, I don't know if I've ever shared this on the podcast, but let me share it now. Yeah. Our mothers, they passed away from cancer about 3 months apart.
Oh,
and
wow.
That's a heavy blow to both sides of the family. And during that time, me and my wife, we kind of started shifting apart, because for those 2 years, everything was focused on our moms and trying to get them better. And during that time, we kind of shifted apart.
Mm-hmm.
And so we eventually kind of came back. We still lived together, but we just weren't on the same page.
Yep.
So we came back, and then we started the companies, and we started changing our mindsets, and understood that we grow together and or float together, or we sink together. And so that was what we did. And then one of the big goals that we want to do in tribute to our mothers is we love to build a school. We love to build a school. We haven't decided yet where and what country, or maybe it could be here, but an important piece would be to have financial education in there. They always talk about how they're going to put financial education in these schools, and they haven't. How is it that, these kids from high school are leaving, and they don't understand how to, read a credit card statement. They don't know what inflation is. Then they go to college or university, and the very first thing that they're given is a credit card, and they don't know how to use it. And so financial education is an important piece. And so we would love to put that into schools, to start educating the kids at a younger age, so that when they get to that time in their lives, that they now have the understanding of how this works. Because it's so important. How do you not know how to read a credit report, but yet the credit report is probably one of the most important things that you need to buy one of the biggest assets in your life, your home or a car, whatever it is that you need, and you don't know how that works. And I'm not blaming them. It's just, listen, the school system is not broken. It's built by design. They've designed it this way. And so I get it. I understand it. And so I want to change that. That's what we would like to do.
I love it, man. I am friends with Sharon Lechter, who's the co-author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Yeah.
And has written, Thinking Rich stuff. And that's been a big thing of hers. So I need to put you two in touch with each other. Because I know she's doing a big thing in Arizona and then across the country, and speaking internationally. And it might be a great guest for your community and vice versa. But you're so right about things. The school system isn't broken; it's just designed that way so that they can pump the most amount of kids out with the least amount of work to get funding for a lot of things. It's evolved. It's changing. But I think it's also too is that parents, family members have to take a much more direct responsibility in teaching their children as well, versus just dropping people off,
Right.
Around.
Yeah, no, you're right. And so listen, and I'll tell you a little story as well too. So my daughter now, she's 18 years old. She's been an assistant in my business. She does the bookkeeping. She understands all of what we do. And she comes to the events, so she sees it, she hears it, she understands what it all means and how it all works. And so then she finished high school. She wasn't too sure what she wanted to do. So she's over in Spain right now. She's doing au pair. because I said, well, look, you're not going to sit around and do nothing. So you got to do something, either go to work or do something that you want to do. And so she decided to do that. I'm like, yeah, I'm cool with that. So she went to the bank to go get a credit card, and they denied her. And so then I knew the branch manager, and I went in there and I said, hey, look, you see the portfolios that we have and what we're doing and what we're building. You know that she's a part of my business. And so she has financial education. And he goes, yeah, Gary, but because she's not in college university, we can't give it to her. And so that was when I looked at the branch manager, he looked at me and he knew, he's like, okay, I understand what you're saying now, that it's built by design. Right. And yet you have these other kids that have gone to college or university that don't have that education and understanding and how to use a credit card, but yet now they're given this dangerous weapon. It's a weapon. And then they put themselves into financial hardship. And then now they're just behind that 8 ball for the rest of their lives. And unless they can find some way to dig, because I know I was there, throughout, right up until like around 33, 34 years old. I was just caught in this rat race where, you get home and my son, there's no food in the fridge, and my son's in his last shitty diaper. And then I go to the mailbox, and there's like a child tax credit in there for like $75. I'm like, yes, we can eat. That was how tight it was for us. That's how we had to live. And so you get caught in that trap. So that is that's our goal, is to try to educate and help as many people as we can in their later years, older years, but to really get into those schools at the younger age so that they can at least have a better footing to start life on.
I love it, man. I absolutely love it. Talk about your podcast a little bit and tell them how they can tune into that, because it's valuable stuff. I've been listening to some episodes and really love it.
Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate that. Yeah. So the name of my podcast is Real Talk with Gary: Wealth, Health, and everything in between. And listen, and the reason why I called it that was because I think it's important to obviously understand wealth. I want to help as many people as I can to create wealth, to be able to now, if they have that wealth, to be able to now live and design the life that they want. But more importantly is that if you've created that wealth, there's no point in having it if you don't have the health. And so I like to bring people on to teach them about, the importance of exercising and going to the gym, and, with so much information out there on the different type of nutritions and keto diets and 40-day fast and vegan, and, so what's right, what's not right. And more importantly for each individual, because I don't think there's, one system for the whole world. Right. And then to kind of tie that all together is the mindset piece. And so I love having people on there talking about the mindset, and the importance of that, and how you can really truly design your life. And so that's really what the podcast is all about, is bringing all of that together. And I put the in between at the end because I wasn't too sure where I may want to take it 3, 4, 5 years from now. Right. One of my favorite podcasters, besides yourself, is Joe Rogan. Loved the Joe Rogan podcast. And so who knows, I maybe have people on there talking about maybe going to Saturn. Who knows? It might be interesting to talk about that stuff, right?
I agree, man.
I want to keep it open.
Sometimes it's good to shake it up a little bit and throw some good wild cards in your podcast to keep people entertained. Like, what the heck was he talking about? But that's the thing.
Absolutely.
It is that I think true entrepreneurs have a variety of interests, not only just in their main bread and butter business, real estate being ours, real estate education, but it's also, our bodies, our health. You want to be able to enjoy it. You want to be able to discuss those things that other entrepreneurs are going through, whether it's business tactics, entrepreneurship, mindset, health. You opened up, talked about it's very, spouses. The marriage can be a difficult thing for entrepreneurs at some point, and then I was so happy to hear that your wife are going in the same direction, which makes it a whole lot easier when you have the same goals versus opposite direction. I've been divorced. As I said, I had my starter wife to figure it out what I did wrong and what I wanted to be. And, Steph and I are doing well. So we're excited about what the future holds for us. As I joke, we're not married, we're happy.
That's good. That's good.
It
Hey,
works
listen,
out.
man.
I haven't gotten too many kicks from that one from Steph yet, but anyway. But
Yeah. Look, I think at the end of the day, as long as you're happy, man, as long as you're waking up and you're enjoying life, that's what it's all about. Listen, man, I think laughter is the best medicine. That is how you stay healthy. I think that's how you keep, ailments and viruses and cancer out of your body. Just keep laughing, keep enjoying it, keep having fun. If you're not having fun, then stop doing what you're doing. It's just a choice. It's a simple choice. Yes or no. You don't like doing this anymore. Stop.
Exactly. Smart home choice from Gary there. What's the best way for people to get a hold of you, get more information, to tap into you and your network and other things, Gary?
Yeah. So the best way to reach out to me is by my email. So Gary at smarthomechoice.ca. You can also go to my website, which is smarthomechoice.ca, or you can go to iTunes and just do a search on Real Talk with Gary.
Awesome stuff, man. Well, hey, man, thanks so much for coming on the No Closure Show podcast and sharing your insight, sharing your journey. So excited what you got going on, man. That's one of the things I enjoyed so much of our conversation a couple of weeks back, was hearing all the good things you're going on. And I love what you're doing. You're being different. You're really giving the tools to people, or helping share the tools to help what made you successful with your community and other people around you. And we look forward to the continued growth and success that you're going to show and see come to you and your family, Gary. So thanks again for being on the podcast.
Listen, thank you very much for having me on here. I appreciate it. I love sharing my story, and I love what you guys are doing. I really do. I think it's amazing. So keep it up. I'm paying attention to it, and I think the world is starting to pay attention to it as well too. So don't stop.
Well, thanks, brother. I appreciate it, man. We'll see you later. All right.
All right. Thanks again.
All right, guys. You heard what Gary had to say there. If you think about this, SMART goals. Apply that in your life. If you're doing something you dislike doing, quit doing it. Find a solution. Start planning to do that. Turn off the tube and start working that side hustle, 7 p.m. to 2 a.m., 1 a.m. in the morning. Start doing something different. If you don't like where you're at, hey, change it, because I don't care who you are or where you're at. You're at where you are because of the decisions you've made on a daily basis in your past. So start making different decisions, and you'll find different solutions. So go out, take some action, everybody, and we'll see you all at the top, everybody. Bye.